Gender equality for me is a human right. It's not about numbers, it's about equal rights. But that unfortunately hasn't been the situation in many countries. And we've been fighting for gender equality for quite some time now, for many years we can say. For me, having equality would mean to have both formal and substantive equality for women. That would also mean that we have a lot to do in the areas of still entitling, enabling and empowering women to achieve equal rights. In many countries, we still don't have equal rights in the law, nor in policies for women. In the case of the Maldives, we now have introduced gender equality and also a prohibition on discrimination based on gender in the 2008 Constitution. And we also currently have policies and action plans that are actually favorable towards women. We are in the very primary stages of trying to ensure entitling women and also trying to create enabling environments for women to achieve gender equality. I think gender equality finally for me would mean a day when women's lives are not dictated by ideologies or by domestic chores. One of the major challenges that we have is still awareness. We don't have sufficient awareness. We should not be even talking about communities when we don't have that level of awareness, even amongst key actors within the state and also stakeholders when we talk about issues such as gender equality. We have a lot more to do in terms of raising awareness from the stakeholders to the communities to ensure that we achieve gender equality. Along these lines, the government is currently working on a lot of gender sensitization programs, training programs for officials, not only trying to teach them or raise awareness of basic concepts of gender equality and women's empowerment, but also trying to raise awareness on recent initiatives in terms of the laws that we have introduced, what these key concepts in the laws mean and how do we go about trying to achieve them. The second biggest challenge, I think this also came up in the HLPF review, thematic review of the SDG 5 in New York recently, is the issue of data and statistics. We still don't have enough data to actually work on evidence-based policies, which is much required to ensure that we have the right policy to tackle the key concerns or the issues. I think, as I mentioned this morning, Maldives is a very fine example of how actually gender equality affects other developmental goals in a positive way. For instance, up until 1933, we didn't have a formal school for girls, and up until 1940s, late 1940s, we didn't have women traveling abroad for higher studies, and yet with government policies and key focus on eliminating discrimination for women or girls in education, we achieved not only gender parity in education, but we also managed to achieve other developmental goals such as more women seeking employment, more women seeking higher positions in government or the private sector. We still have a lot more to do, but because of the difference that suddenly we saw in the education sector, we had positive impacts on employment. This also relates to eliminating women in poverty, which is a key concern, and less dependence of women on other members of her family or on her husband for financial needs. So and also it also contributes to other SDG goals, such as creating more inclusive societies. So it has actually a direct impact on other developmental goals. UNDP has been a major developmental partner in the Maldives in terms of the developments we've seen in our legislative front and our institutional front. UNDP has actually played a major role in trying to do research to get us to fill the data gap or the information gap that we had, and also tried to work with the government to create the necessary legislations and see some of it has been went through a parliamentary process of more than 10 years, but they still made it because of constant lobbying and trying to create the awareness within the stakeholders as well as within the communities of the importance of legislative reform, research, and data collection. Most recently, UNDP has been very helpful to the government when we worked on the National Human Rights Action Plan. This is a document that through which the government aims to implement all of the commitments we have under international conventions, human rights conventions. And UNDP has again played a key role in trying to make sure that they are also aligned with SDG goals and all of our national commitments under various conventions and multi-sectoral plans. I think in terms of our future with UNDP, we will continue to work together in terms of bringing in all the governance and human rights reforms that the country is currently working on. We have made a lot of achievements in the past. However, we continue to work with a lot of areas that need still to be addressed.